I'd like to call the March 7th, 2019 City Council meeting to order. We are joined this evening by Councilmember Barber by phone, so we do have a full council here tonight. The first thing we'll do is have our opening by Councilmember Strode-Care.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us all bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. As we come before Thee this evening, our dear Lord Jesus Christ, we ask that You watch over us and guide us and help us govern our city in a way that's fair and just, and help us make the decisions that we need to do as a elected and governed body here in the city of Kaysville. Please watch over us and help us in every way that You can. Also, too, as we enter the Lenten season, we ask that we all become a little more Christ-like in the leading days and weeks toward Your holy resurrection on Easter Sunday. We say these things humbly in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Please rise for the national anthem. Agents. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right. It's good to have so many of our young people here tonight. You picked a good one to come to, because we are going to have Bryce Hatterley join us to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, my name is Bryce Hatterley. I'm the president of the Utah City Management Association, and I also have David Larson here with me tonight. He's a member of our board, and we appreciate the opportunity you've given us to join you here this evening. As members of the Utah City Management Association, or UCMA as we refer to it, we represent city and county management professionals throughout the state of Utah, and we are the state affiliate for the International City Council Management Association, or ICMA. The ICMA's mission is to create excellence in local government by promoting professional management worldwide and increasing the proficiency of appointed chief administrative officers, assistant administrators, and other employees who serve local government. As board members of UCMA and representatives of ICMA, we are here and pleased to attend your council meeting this evening in order to honor a distinguished member of our association, Mr. Shane Scott, with ICMA's his prestigious credentialed manager designation. The ICMA Voluntary Credential Program recognizes professional local management, government management qualified by a combination of education experience, adherence to high standards of integrity, an assessed commitment to lifelong learning and professional development. Managers are recognized by ICMA Executive Board through a peer review credentialing process. This program assists ICMA members in focusing and reflecting upon their lifelong professional development experience. ICMA credential managers are viewed with growing distinction by local governing bodies and progressive, civically engaged communities. The skills and experiences learned within this program are invaluable to the credential manager and the community they serve. Shane is one of only 15 local government professionals in the state of Utah who have earned this prestigious designation. As members of UCMA, we are honored to represent the ICMA in bestowing this credentialed manager designation to Shane Scott. He's a highly respected member of our association and an example of and mentor to his peers throughout the state of Utah. I'd also like to give David a moment to say a few words.
It's great to be with you. I actually reside here in Kaysville, and so it's fun to come to your own city and be able to present the city manager that helps to make the life that you live as good as it can be, and recognize Shane. It's been my pleasure to associate with Shane and be able to see him and his work a little bit more up close here now, being a resident almost a year now. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to recognize Shane and the wonderful manager that he is, and the incredible honor it is to recognize him as a credentialed manager. So, thank you.
And just a little bit of side news. Shane and I cut our teeth in southern Utah. He was in Parowan when I was in Bryan Head, and so we had a great opportunity to work together for a lot of years there, and I have a great friendship and appreciation for Shane. So if we can, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please join us in congratulating Shane for achieving this accomplishment.
Let's have a picture. Thank you so much. One of only 15 in the state. It's pretty awesome. And he works for us. Okay, declaration of any conflicts of interest. Anybody have any conflicts of interest this evening? Okay, I don't see anybody who does. All right. Councilmember Barber, are you on? Can we call her back? Excuse us, sorry. She's trying really hard to be here.
Hello. Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Hi, Michelle. Okay, you're back.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, we are on to our consent agenda. Would anybody like to address the consent agenda?
I'll move that we approve consent agenda item A, and we pull item B for a little bit of further discussion since our Public Works Director is here with us.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilmember DeCare, seconded by Councilmember Garn. Councilmember Page.
Aye.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So A is approved. Oh, and Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Okay. All right, let's go to B. Do you want to speak to that, Councilmember DeCare?
Just the award for bid for 200 North Bridge Repair Project Test Section. Reading through the staff report, I realized that the scope of the work, that it's just going to be essentially just that, a test section, approximately $50,500 from the approximate $1.1 million from the settlement. So I figured in having Josh Belknap, our Public Works Director, and professional civil engineer with us, that he might be able to speak to this if any of us have any questions or comments or anything along those lines. So
Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I personally do not, but I just thought in the spirit of keeping things open that it might not be a bad idea. So
Sure.
Any questions on this?
I'm fine. I think it's
Okay.
okay.
All right.
So
Excellent. Do you want to
that means,
that?
then I will
Throw
move.
one out there, I guess.
Okay,
Does the
Councilmember
cost of this
DeCare.
apply to the project if it's successful?
Correct, yeah, so that $20,000 difference is purchasing us kind of some comfort in the approach and the longevity of it, and then would be applied to the full contract amount.
It was like 55 grand or so, right, for the test section?
$50,780
something, yeah.
That
So
will apply though, if it's a successful
correct, yeah,
method.
yeah.
It
This
will
is
apply to the job. And,
right. This is part of that larger contract
Okay.
amount.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, I'd entertain a motion on B.
Okay, so with that being said, then I move that we approve award of bid for 200 North Bridge Repair Test Section on consent item 4.
Okay.
Second motion.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilmember DeCare, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, we're going on to our action items. Interlocal cooperation agreement for municipal election services. Shane?
Mayor, City Council, as we discussed last time during a work session, this is the agreement that we would enter into with Davis County to perform our election services this year. Largely a vote by mail effort, and I think we had some pretty good consensus at the last meeting on this item, and I know Maria, as our elected official or election official, is excited to move forward with Davis County. So I'm here for questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody signed up to speak to this? Okay, thank you. Okay, we do not have anybody signed up to speak to this item, so we'll go to questions from council. Any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Well, I move that we approve the interlocal agreement.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Page, seconded by Councilmember DeCare. Councilmember Garn.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And Councilmember Barber. All right, I think that was an aye.
I think it
so it passes unanimously. All right, next consultant contract for community visioning services with Langdon Group. Can you do that, please? Thanks.
So we're at the stage, we've talked about this a couple times. We went through a process that with 3 of our community members that are kind of versed in this kind of thing. We had put out an RFQ, I believe it was, and had a number of really interesting responses, and we've excited to provide a recommendation tonight of the Langdon Group. I think we have, okay, and Josh is not here yet. Okay. Okay, so regardless, we've got the Langdon Group here to answer some questions if you have any. The contract is on your agenda in your packet, and we're excited to kick this visioning process off. And I think we can, if you'd like to talk some details, we're here to do that with you. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, do we have anybody to speak to this? Okay. All right, Dean Wall.
Yeah, I'm Dean Wall. I had a question on what we're doing. Is this a thing where we're just hiring a company to do what we want or set up what we want to do in the future as far as building and development stuff, or what is this visioning thing? That's
Okay.
I read through it and I didn't quite understand what it was.
Thank you. Yep. All right. So to answer Dean's question and anybody else who might be new to this, we are undertaking our first ever strategic plan for our community. And so what we want to do is have a vision for what Kaysville is going to be in the next 20 years. And that should be generated from the people, not from a council. It needs to come from our people. And so we have hope to contract with Langdon Group to help us through that process. They have just recently done something similar with the mountain area governments MAG, correct? And, yes?
Mountain Land Association of Governments.
Mountain
It's
Land
MEO.
Association of Governments. And we have used Langdon Group on other items as well to reach out to the community. And they have some really exciting things that I think they're going to bring to the table. Josh, could you come forward and talk about some of the things that we're hoping to accomplish with the community?
All right, good evening, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, Mayor, Shane, and thanks for this opportunity. We're looking forward to developing a strategic plan which includes mission, vision, and guiding principles for this city. This will be done from the bottom up. We want to plan for Kaysville by Kaysville and get input from a diversity of people, a good cross-section of the community. We'll do that through assessing where people are, what their attitudes, beliefs, ideals are, what they envision for the city, and we'll do that through interviews, surveys, work group meetings, working with the city staff internally as well as external citizens, and go through an iterative process to synthesize and analyze that information and get it down to some key themes and insights that will inform the development of mission, vision, and guiding principles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just so folks know, this is in preparation. We're going to update our general plan. We have a lot that needs to be done, and this is the first step in doing that. So,
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Can I sit down?
Yes, you may.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. All right. Any questions from council at this point? Either for Josh or...
What is the cost breakdown? Can we go over that?
Yeah, we can go over that. All right. Shane?
I actually am sorry, I don't have my packet here with me. But
Here, I can.
it is
Yeah,
in the packet.
Okay. So it's on,
I want to go over it.
yeah,
People are
Councilmember
aware.
Adams, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, so what we asked for, we had a lot of interest to help us with this. We had, was it 10, 12 proposals?
Yeah, it was at least
Yeah, and that came through. And Langdon Group came in very economically.
So what does that mean? They're not the low then?
They are not the low, they were second lowest, I'll say that, but they were offering the most for what we were asking for. And we had a group that had a really awesome plan, but it was $150,000. Like, yeah, actually, we don't have that kind of money right now. But so as you can see, the price, we've got.
Could you state the price, please, so people are aware?
Yes. So is it the 45,000?
Right.
Yeah. So it's 45,000 to. And actually, that was very thrifty compared to a lot of the plans that were brought forward. So, yeah. Yeah, go
Also, there
ahead.
are some things on here that we may or may not choose to do. Some public meetings that we may do without the help of the Langdon Group, but so that would be a not to exceed number.
Yeah, so that's the ceiling, not the floor. Good. All right. Any other questions specifically? And the group who helped us with this, I think we mentioned it during the work session. We had several members of staff, Councilmember Garn, myself, a member of our Planning Commission, Will Summercorn, Shauna Burbidge, who's a member of our community, who's very involved in the planning realm. She's taught at BYU and also U of U. And so we, who evaluated all these proposals. And every person who read through these, this proposal was either the first or second choice. So we felt pretty good about this. All right.
And what fund will this be pulled from?
This comes from the general fund.
Yeah, professional technical.
Professional technical. Okay. Any further questions Councilmember Barber, do you have any questions? I'm going to take that as a no. Oh, I'm sorry. What was your question? Sorry. Okay. All right. We're gonna.
No, I don't have any questions.
No questions. Okay. Okay.
I have a comment, though.
All right. Any comments at this time? Well, first we'll do a motion.
I move to approve the consultant contract for community visioning services from the Langdon Group.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Garden, seconded by Councilmember DeCare. Any comments at this time? Councilmember Garden.
Yeah, I think,
My comment was that I've been working with the city assembled, and I appreciated their selection process. I think this is a good decision.
All right, thank you. All right.
yeah, so I won't say that. I do think it was a robust process to look at both the quality and the cost factors involved. And the one thing I would say, well, you asked the question, why would this be necessary to do a consulting contract? Why can't we do this internally? And I don't think it suggests in this particular case, every situation is different. I don't think it means that, and in fact, to the contrary, we do want input from the citizenry, but it's not every day that we redo the general plan and do a visioning project like this, whereas a group like this that does it for so many different cities has a broader perspective than perhaps many of us do. Not that we don't have good ideas, because that's part of the plan, is to find out what the community values in shaping the vision. Mm-hmm. So when you get, to me, it's money well spent, because at the end of the day, the process will be improved, and we perhaps won't make the same kind of naive errors that we might make without someone who does it for a lot of different cities and similar work.
And it was important to me that we actually hire out instead of doing this internally, because I want there to be confidence from our people that it was not manipulated to come out with a certain outcome. I wanted people to feel confident that that their voices were heard. So I thought it was important to hire this out. Yes, Councilmember DeCare.
In the spirit of that, I think this, it kind of goes along the lines, and I think we've used this analogy here before, where, we don't cut our own hair, essentially, and there are some things that we have to do, that we have to, that we don't have expertise in. I mean, granted, everybody here on this council is, brilliant and intelligent, and, brings a lot to the table and stuff, and same with our city staff and that too, but there are certain things that are outside of the realm of that, and sometimes we do feel that it's necessary to, bring in that independent voice, to look at things from all angles and look at things objectively, and to see things where we as a city and we as a community and elected officials and city staff may have overlooked, and like Councilman Garn said, so that we don't fall into the same pitfalls that other communities and municipalities around here have, and avoid those mistakes and move things forward for the next generation or two here in Kaysville. So.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Adams.
When I think of general plan, I essentially think of zoning. I think it's one of the, obviously the biggest components to a general plan of any community. And I don't really see our community needing any massive shifts in zoning. I don't know what the prerogative here is. I share some sentiment that's been expressed by a member of the public already tonight. I had no idea this gentleman was going to express that sentiment, but I'm not a big fan of paying third parties to do all of our work for us either, especially when we're encroaching upon build out in the city. I don't know what kind of miraculous changes to the general plan that we're going to make, and I guess it would help to have some context. I know you campaigned heavily on this, and that was your platform. I guess some context it would be helpful to have is what you feel Kaysville should be in 20 years personally. This is kind of your project here, so I think that context would perhaps help to gain some understanding of what you're thinking is going to change in the general plan?
So our general plan is very, very general, if you have ever looked at it. And I don't want to impose my view on what the city's supposed to be. My vision is that it's generated from our people, which is why we're going through this process. So it shouldn't be top down, it should be bottom up. And so that has always been my view, is that we need to, because we're going to be gone. We all cycle through, administration cycles through, but who stays here is our people. And so this is their plan, not our plan. So that's what we're attempting to do, is create this plan by the people, for the people.
Well, that didn't really answer the question per se, which is okay if you don't want to share what you think should be changed. I just think, obviously, there's something that one would think maybe needs to change in the general plan.
I think that I've heard frustration from people that we haven't planned ahead, and we've put in development before we've put in infrastructure, and one thing that we've heard a lot about is, I've heard people say, we need a rec center, we need a fire station on the west side, so this is an opportunity for our community. Yeah, do you want to come speak to that?
Sure. Hi, my name is Derek Moss. I'm with the Langdon Group, and I think ultimately that is one of the big pieces of this, is determining, in my opinion, is determining where we want to go with land use and zoning. I think the first question would be, do we know, in fact, where we're going in some cases? And I think that's what we need to establish and find out. And that's really our goal. Our goal is to go out to the community and find out what is it that people want in these places that maybe are developed and are going through some measure of redevelopment, and then in other cases where they're not developed yet and they're going to be developed. And so my background's in planning. I'm a planner. I speak to that. I speak to land use, and I speak to zoning very well. But I would argue too that it has to do with other things as well, things like infrastructure improvements, things like amenities that maybe we would desire. And what we're trying to identify through this process is that, are those things, are there people in the community that want those things? And if there are people in the community that want those things, we want to know that. And we feel like we don't. We feel like we're not sure whether we know that. And so that's our goal, that's our purpose, to go out and find that out. And it's through, and that's what all the steps in this process are for, is for us to then capture some of those things and establish a vision and a mission, and then look at implementation. If the vision is we want more recreational facilities, okay, how are we going to accomplish that? And then that's where the council and that's where the plan do this, that we can accomplish this vision that the community and the residents of the community have established. So does that answer your question?
It helps, gives a better scope of what we're talking about here, and it's not just for me; it's for everybody listening and who will be listening. So
yeah, and I think ultimately you're absolutely correct that we're getting to a point in Kaysville where changes, there may not be a lot of changes that will or should happen, or could really, but in places where they might be minor changes, but there's opportunities there, and we want to know, what is it that people want? People who live here, why do people live here? What do they find important, and how can we accomplish that vision for today and for the future?
Thank you. Yeah, and the way I look at it is it's direction from our people. It's kind of like a punch list. These are the things that are the most important to us, and so it is really helpful to us as an elected body that this is coming from our residents, that in a organized fashion, okay, these are the things that are important to us, so that gives us kind of our to-do list.
I would just contend that that's perhaps something we can accomplish on our own, through surveys and processes of our own, and putting ideas out there, or letting people throw the ideas out, and then we survey the ideas. The group, I think, is a great group, no question about it, so it's nothing to do with that. This is an entirely different discussion. And I'm also reluctant with these studies, because the history of these studies, third-party studies, are that typically the city will stand on them. As well, that professional said we needed it. We've got other things going on right now. Well, that study said we needed it. And I just think there are areas where we can actually kind of put boots on the ground and do some of this on our own.
Okay. Councilmember DeCare, did you have something?
I did, just real quick. So to speak to a general plan, I served on Kaysville City's Planning Commission 5 years ago when the general plan was being rewritten and kind of being edited and things along those lines. And as much as it is a land use document, there are a lot of other things in there. And while its inherent name is a general plan, and I get that it's a top-down view and it is intentionally kind of ambiguous and covers a wide subset of topics, ultimately that document really does help form and kind of guide and move our community down the road. Active transportation, for one thing, was a big issue in the last rewrite, and that's something that we worked exhaustively on the Planning Commission and incorporated that into our general plan. So there are key components and key facets to it that can help move things, and it's an exciting time here. As Councilman Adams alluded to, we are moving toward the end of population growth here in Kaysville, but I mean, that's still 7-10 years down the road, and that's still quite a long ways out. And having that guidance and that direction, I think, will be exceptionally beneficial to help us with our long-term growth.
Thank you.
Did I hear
Councilmember
you correctly?
Adams.
The Planning Commission 5 years ago revisited and reworked the general plan? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the general plan is reworked and relooked at every number of years, yes.
So it has been done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Not independently, though, by the Planning Commission. We were one facet and one portion of that, so let me clarify.
And
that too,
these need to be looked at every 5 to 7 years to keep them current. And same with this plan. Once we get this in place, we need to revisit it every 5 to 7 years to see have the needs of our community changed. So, and that's why if you're really using your plan, you'll realize when things are starting to shift and people are like, well, that's what we said we wanted back then, but situation's different now, and that's why you come back to it every 5 to 7 years to refresh it, check in with people, make sure that you're on the right track.
A lot of times I think that's where you get in trouble with the public, is by changing it every 5 to 7 years. That's a lot of the turmoil that's going on in West Kaysville right now, is the constant changing of it. So I think we do need to be careful as you guys proceed with this, that there aren't drastic, rampant changes. There's a huge push in the legislature to create more high-density housing right now.
Right.
I kind of see that as somewhat as what might be behind this. So I just caution that we move forward carefully, because yeah, it's good to bring change, it's good to reassess, but it's also good to honor the reasons why people moved into the neighborhoods they moved
Right.
into, instead of saying, well, bam, you get this in your front yard
That's
now.
right.
Because we want to change the general plan, and the new populace that has moved into town wants it this way. So I'd say be cautious.
Yeah. And Councilmember, I'll just say that that is one of the real reasons that we need to check in with our people, because we need to talk about what is good for our community, right? So that's one of the reasons we need to do this. Councilmember DeCare.
General plan editing and rewriting is something that's set and driven by city and state ordinance and code too. It's not something that we're just doing willy-nilly. It's something that we're directed to do, essentially. So, every 5 to 7 years you take a look at something and you see where things are, and you see where you can make applicable changes and move things forward. So.
Yeah, but point well taken.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, let's go to a vote, and I think it's... Councilmember Barber, did you have a comment?
I have one more comment, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Just in the past couple weeks, I've had several residents email me website comes from neighboring cities that have strategic plans, envisioning, and a really nice visual for residents to get with and understanding from. And I've been able to say, hey, we have something like this coming. So I think it will be a great thing.
All right, thank you. So Councilmember Barber said that she has received emails from people who have come from communities with strategic plans and have felt that it would be beneficial to Kaysville. Is that correct, Michelle? Councilmember Barber? If I heard that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, let's go to a vote then. Did I already start with you?
I think so.
Okay, Councilmember DeCare.
Aye.
I'm not opposed to the concept, I'm just opposed to habitually spending a lot of money on third parties to do our work for us. It's an A.
Aye.
Aye.
And Councilmember Barber? Is that an aye?
Aye.
Yes, okay.
You're
Thank you.
leading, Mayor, as Jake Garn would call it.
All right. Okay, motion passes 4-1. Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you. We're about to start our call to the public. Now, in order to speak for a call to the public, you need to have signed up. So if you wanted to speak and you haven't signed up, run out there and sign up really fast. It's all good? Okay. All right. All right. All right. Dean Wall.
Yeah, just to start off, my name's Dean Wall. I put in a gamma request almost 30 days ago, and I just barely got part of it today, and I got a little bit of it from the police department a couple of days ago, but 30 days to get a gamma request is a little ridiculous. But to start off, I want to tell everybody that I have a son who's dying. He's in advanced stages of ankylosing spondylitis, and I've had him in 2 different hospitals over the last 2 months, more than a dozen times, because he can't keep food down. He throws it up. Whatever he tries to keep down, he throws up, and I have to keep taking him to the hospital to get him rehydrated. And he's fallen down twice because of the disease, but in late January, my wife was having several problems. She was having problems walking around, and I called. I tried to get her. Her doctor called me and told her to get her to the emergency room, and this was on, I think it was February 4th, and I couldn't convince her. Me and my son couldn't convince her to go to the hospital, and so I called for an ambulance. The ambulance people came from Kaysville, and they came in and asked my wife a couple of questions, and then proceeded to tell me that not only were they not going to take my wife to the hospital, they were going to stay there and make sure that I didn't take my wife to the hospital. And I had to call the county to get county paramedics up there to tell them that they can't legally do that because it's illegal for them to stop me from taking my wife to the hospital. And I eventually got them up there, and the paramedics convinced my wife to go, but the 2 firemen were holding on to my wife, and when the paramedics told them that they couldn't stop me from taking her, they let her go, and she fell and hit her arm on the coffee table. And but by the time I got her to the hospital, which I did get her to the hospital that night, we found out that she was in severe. She was severely in potassium. She had almost no potassium in her, And it took them almost 8 hours in the hospital just to get her enough potassium that she could get up and leave the hospital. And then we had, she's still taking the potassium pills now, but if I hadn't got her to the hospital, if I'd have done what the fire department told me to do, my doctor told me that we'd have buried her the next day.
All right.
She was that low.
Thank you, Dean. All right. Richard Proctor.
I'm the guy with the letter. I listened with interest to what's going on with the planning, and I agree with that 100%. I just think we need to be careful that we do not get involved with the federal government and they're dictating to us what we have to do and what we must do. If you accept dollars, when you accept dollars from somebody like a government, they dictate to you or they'll take the dollars back. So you have to be real careful to get involved with that. I've been studying these kinds of things. I've been involved in politics now for decades. I've ran for treasurer in for the state once, an auditor twice. I'm involved in this kind of thing. I would like to be available. I will make myself available if you want to for the information that I have and I've drawn to assist. I'm living here. We moved here. I want to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Brig Lewis.
I have a lot to throw out here. I've watched some of the planning that's gone on here in Kaysville over the last few years, and I see goals of $10 to $20 million programs that they want to do. I'm concerned, very much concerned. The Standard Examiner had an article this past week. There's a new $5 million city hall that's on the plan. We had a bond for the fire station. It raised our taxes. We paid the bond off, but the tax increase stayed. It never went away. We had a bond for our police palace, and that should just about be paid off. I'm guessing that the tax increase will not decrease, it will stay. We'll probably stick the citizens with another tax increase for the changes that we want to make to the city hall. There's a lot of things out there that are in place just as they were in 2008. The housing bubble, the debt bubbles, there's some other issues out there. We're very close to having problems. People are struggling. You don't realize how much. My son and I replaced a door, an exterior door between a house and a garage for a single lady at no cost to her, because she was no way ever going to make that happen. If our taxes go up, they're going to be in worse condition otherwise. Now, for my last little bit of time, we talked about the fiber optic thing for the city. I would be only under certain circumstances. I watch what the city does to the enterprise funds. They turn them into cash cows, which I think is wrong. And if we come along and we create a new utility with fiber optics, if the city is going to turn into a cash cow, I don't want them touching it. Because as a fact of the matter, I don't trust you guys. I really don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Brig. Kim Bell.
Appreciate the opportunity. I found out a couple weeks ago, kind of through the back door, that Councilman Adams had sent out a request for Shepherd Lane residents feedback on the West project to do sidewalks and gutters. And I appreciate that effort because we do have some concerns, and the residents feel like our concerns haven't been heard. We know that the project needs to be done. However, we feel like the timing of the project is not at the right time with construction costs as high as they are right now and labor shortages. I went to the Utah Housing Forecast Summit a little while ago, and was shared with me at that time that a prominent developer in Salt Lake City who has a big project going, there was a construction foreman from the airport project that came to this developer's job and offered all of the laborers $2 more an hour if they would follow him that day. The only person that stayed on that job was the foreman. I'm concerned that this job will start on Shepherd Lane. We won't be able to finish it in time. It'll take a long time because of the labor. And then also the other concern that we have is it's kind of a topic that you were talking about earlier today, in that the plans change. Shepherd Lane was a country lane. It's now a major corridor. And when we were told by the city how they were going to finish the street, they were telling us that our driveway approaches were going to be the standard, 25 feet. I'm not quite sure of the measurements, 35 feet. That's not how those properties were purchased. They are horse properties. We need wider approaches. We don't feel like our concerns are being heard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who shared their comments. We're going to do council member reports. Community development. Anything for community development?
No, not tonight.
Public Works.
Nothing to report tonight.
Power Commission, we met a couple of nights ago, discussed all the different various UAMPS projects. I don't need to get off in the weeds about those things, but discussed all that, discussed how UAMPS operates, things along those lines. AMI metering update, we've got about 3,000 or so that have been deployed throughout the city, so we're about 40% done with the city on that, about a third or so done with that. What else? Financials were tabled, the way that rate structures and things like that, and that'll all be discussed in April. So.
Okay, thanks. And I'll just give you an update on the remodel for this building. We've been going back and forth with the architect about how we can get functional space here without breaking the bank. Nothing's going to be gold-plated. If you go to the city's website right now, there's information that was loaded up just today. Some frequently asked questions. I think we put on there the floor plan, if I'm not mistaken, as well as some exterior shots or concept drawings. We're going to be having a information open house on March 19th, so that's a Tuesday from 6 to 8, and we'll be having tours of this building, answering questions about the financials, so if you are interested, please go if you want more information, go first to the city's website. If you go to community, there's a section that says City Hall remodel. Click on that, and there's information there. Also, come to the open house on the 19th, or you can contact any of the council members or myself, and we'd be glad to talk to you as well. I think that, so we've got that going on. Look in your utility bill that comes out. We have a survey, fiber to the home survey that's going to be in there. So that is put together with Design 9, who is doing our feasibility study. So please take advantage of answering that. You will also be able to, if you don't get a physical utility bill, you'll be able to find it on the city's website as well. And Shane, anything?
Mayor, I do have one thing. Just something to put on your radar for those of you that are attending the spring conference in St. George for the Utah League of Cities and Towns. On the Wednesday, starting at noon, there's a UAMPS Municipal Toolkit Workshop. That's what they call it. If you haven't been able to attend those, they're very good. And if you can do that on the front end of the conference, that would be more information to come. I have an agenda here if you'd like to look at it, but just put that in the back of your mind.
Could you remind me when those dates are?
The 24th through the 26th is the conference,
April?
and the 24th is the
Yes, of April.
toolkit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes, April. Yes.
Sorry.
All right. Okay.
I just have a quick request. Could I get a transcript or just an audio CD of the closed-door meeting of December 6th, if that's all right? I wasn't able to attend due to illness, so I'd just like to...
Do we have that?
They're all on record.
It's my understanding you have to
Yeah, but you can definitely come listen to it.
Okay, that's fine. I've had a CD given to me before, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I
But
can
you're
come in. If
welcome
you just
to
want
do
to
that.
email me when it's downloaded and ready. Okay, super.
All right.
And then a quick thing about grammar laws, because, you know, it struck me there. I know that there's a grammar request. A constituent had reached out to me and said, I put a grammar request in, and I think it's been over a year now, and it's still gone unanswered. And I know state law only gives you about 10 days. I stand to be corrected, but I know it's not 30. So maybe just a word on that we ought to, you know, try and uphold those timeframes. And you can tell the person, I believe, going off memory here, if there's more time needed on the city's behalf, you can notify the person, but you have X amount of days to respond to an individual who submits a grammar request, or we are not in compliance with the law. Like I said, there's one out there that's been there for a year and gone unanswered. So that's, luckily the individuals said whatever, but they could probably make a position on it.
All right. All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.